Anderson Heating and Air, locally owned and operated with over 50 years of experience. Call us today and get a free quote on a brand new furnace and AC, financed and available. Don't wait. Call us today and sign up for a maintenance agreement and stay cool. Our maintenance agreements will ensure that you're first in line if you have an emergency, and we'll send one of our service techs out for cleanings twice a year. Call us at 557-0958 or request an appointment on our website. Call Anderson Heating and Air, where your emergency is our emergency.
Thank you for watching Summit City Sports. To help broaden our coverage, we're asking you to become a monthly sponsor to our Patreon account. We produce weekly highlights and live video broadcasts. When the Homestead girls golf team won its first state title in program history, we were there. When Fort Wayne brought back 3 state titles in cross country, we were there. We believe in sharing positive stories and setting the standard for how high school sports should be covered. Join us and donate today.
And welcome in, everybody. Summit City Sports Report number 43 on the season. Tim Atkinson and the old ball coach, Keith Edmonds, joining us today. My name is Jeff Mahoney. We got a great show. Coach Katie Jackson from Northrop, Coach Rod Parker from Homestead. Both are enjoying outstanding seasons. But first, Tim, they got to match up and play each other. And that's going to happen tomorrow night with SAC implications on the line.
Yeah, Homestead 8-0 in conference play. Northrop 7-1 in conference play. It's all going to go down tomorrow at 6 p.m. They're at the Den. They're at Northrop High School. Coach and I will be there on the call for the, a nice doubleheader on a Thursday evening, as the boys will finish tomorrow night as well. But yeah, these are 2 outstanding teams. Northrop got that win against Snyder a week or so ago, and has put themselves in a position for an SAC title. So, we'll get to talk to Coach Rod Parker and Coach Katie Jackson here tonight. Rod Parker at 7, in about 10 minutes, and then Katie Jackson about 20 till 8. So, yeah, 2 outstanding teams, loaded amount of talent. It's going to be a nice one tomorrow for sure.
Yeah, that ought to be just a fun game to watch and to be a part of. And that's usually. When you start your season, Tim and Jeff, the conference is the first step towards hopefully, you feel that will be a run as far as the state tournament is concerned. But that conference championship is something that unfortunately my kids never won.
Really?
Yeah, we always got beat by those guys over there off of those Saints. Those Saints. We could never get by the Saints. I don't know what it was, but
Jeff and I have no comment on that.
Yeah. And Matt Kostoff is listening, boy. I tell you. but yeah, it's just it's bragging rights. It's it's kids you see on a regular basis, and it just ought to be a fun game to be a part of. Northrop, I think they've kind of overachieved. I think if most people would take a look at it, even though, we knew they had some talent coming back, I don't know if they were predicted to be in the running for a conference. But, with that being said, Coach Jackson has done a tremendous job, and these kids have stepped up and put themselves right there where they want to be, with a chance to win the conference on your home floor. You can't ask for any more than that.
Absolutely, Coach. And, looking at this Homestead team, currently ranked number 4 in the USA Today poll, they're having their best season since the 2022 season, when they went 23-2 overall. Tim, what impresses you so much about this year's Homestead group?
Well, they have a potential Miss Basketball in Maya Epps. The junior class is absolutely loaded, but potential Miss Basketball and Maya Epps, and she's not, going for hers. Gabby Helsum, another D1 player, commit. Whitney Ankenbrook, outstanding. Carly Mollering, I believe were the IWU coach. Is that where they're?
Yes.
Both committed to IWU, and then their 5th starter in Delaney Knoll, who's a freshman. What's so impressive, they don't care about their numbers. If one player is hot that night, they're going to get the most shots that night. Mm-hmm. And that's what, Coach Rod Parker has set the tone for. It's about wins. It's about state titles. It's about, being the best that we can be. And for him to, with the amount of talent that they have on that roster, I mean, they have freshmen sit at the end of the bench that would start for a lot of Summit Athletic Conference teams. And Susie Prego comes just off the top of the dome. But, they are a well-oiled machine. They run so many different sets, their inbound plays, their ATOs, all of it is just outstanding. And, it's, what we talked about with Coach Roth last night and with Coach Coughing from Lures is, it's different when you're the hunted and not the hunter. Homestead's been the hunted for years since the Chris McLaughlin days and Coach Parker's daughter there, when they won that state title, they've been the hunted and they just handle business. You're saying, Jeff, going back to 2022, whatever it is, well, that's probably when those girls were freshmen. So they were playing varsity ball as freshmen, but that trio, and not to leave Mullering and Noel out of this, but Ankenbrook, Helsum, and Maya Epps, they're the best trio in the state, and I don't think there's a close three.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's going to be hard to argue that point. Those young ladies, they understand what it takes to win. They lead by example. They don't care. Who scores the points as long as we win. And we were talking last night about a culture that said there's a culture at Homestead. And again, these kids, they understand what the mandate is that, we are one of the best programs in the state. We have one of the best coaches in the state. We have arguably the best player in the class of 2026 in Maya Epps. And Gabby Helsum is right. But again, 2 Indiana All-Stars, maybe even 3 with Whitney Ankenbrook.
Agreed.
But it's just one of those things where we kind of take it for granted. We just expect Homestead to be good, and when they are, we're not surprised. But those kids, they put a lot of work into being where they are, and again, just tremendous job by Coach Parker.
Absolutely. And speaking of, Coach Parker is with us now. And Coach, thanks so much for joining us. Another outstanding season your team is putting together. 21 wins, just 2 losses. Coach, how are you feeling about the current state of your basketball program?
I'm feeling really good right now. I know just popping in, hearing a little bit, Keith making a comment about the culture out in our program right now. And we've had a great run over the past years, but I think our culture right now is maybe the best that it's been. It's really good. Our kids are really in a good place right now to play good competitive basketball.
Coach, what when you take a look at each season, I know each season is its own separate entity, but what was the mindset of these young ladies coming into this season, and have they lived up to what you thought? Are they better than what you thought, or is it winning is our business and business is good?
Well, I like to think business is pretty good, but last year was a year where when our 2026 class were sophomores, and we had the injury to Emma Royce, and they had to grow up quick. And at the beginning of the year, we found ways to win basketball games. But as a coach, you knew that we were still growing and maturing as a team and had our holes. But by January of last year, I was able to kind of sit back and was like, we're getting pretty good. And the kids were coming together and they had the experience, varsity experience, and we made a nice postseason run last year. So coming into this year, it was really high expectations. And one of the things that really separates that junior class apart is their work ethic. I mean, those kids put in the time. I mean, the investment season, as I like to call it, they really invested. They put in the work. So coming into this fall, we could only have high expectations. And, so the girls came in and it's all about winning championships. And that's our goal. Obviously, hopefully to grab one yet this week with our conference title, and then hopefully make a great run in the postseason.
Yeah, and Coach, before we get to that outstanding matchup tomorrow night that everybody's looking forward to, talk a little bit about your feeders and how important it is. You laid down the culture, but that comes with girls rising to your expectations as a head coach at Homestead High School. How important is it to get a hold of those girls, get them in the gym where it's working out with your older girls? What's the philosophy with you and the feeder programs?
Well, I'm very fortunate to have a very strong feeder program. And when I took over this program, I guess it was 23 or 24 years ago, it was kind of set in play to kind of work with the eighth grade or incoming eighth grade class. And so what I did was the following year, I worked with seventh and eighth grade, and then the following year, sixth, seventh, and eighth, and then, fifth through eighth. And now we're all the way down to second and third graders.
Wow.
So we have a winter league that has over 180 girls from grades 2 through 8 playing in it. So we have great contact with them. We take, 10 or 20 of those kids from each class in, and we're continuing to practice right now. We'll play in tournaments all the way through spring break. And between that, our winter and summer camp, we have a lot of contact with the kids. And the girls in our program, fortunately, just look up to my high school players who set just great, role models, for those kids. So they really will have great ambitions to play for us. And that goes a real long way. And I know this year we had a particular game in December where we signed posters after the game, and we set up that table and we went through hundreds of posters for kids in our youth program. And the line out there was crazy. Our athletic director is taking pictures going, I've never seen it like this. Which is really cool in 2024, because it was almost, you almost get a feeling that's what it was like a couple of decades ago, in small communities. So the feeder program is really, really important for us. It's paid dividends to see kids coming up in 4th, 5th grade, middle school, and then ultimately playing at the high school.
Yeah. And that,
Coach,
go ahead, Keith, you got something? Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to ask him, what's the importance? I mean, again, we all understand that you have all-state players and Gabby Helson and Maya Epps and arguably Whitney as well. But what about your Carly Mollerings and the Laney Knowles and those kind of kids? Can you talk a little bit about their importance, even though they don't get the big stat lines, but their importance to the overall look of your program?
Yeah, Keith, that's a great question. Before I answer that, though, I want to go back to Tim's question, because I do want to say this about our feeder program. While my assistant coaches put in a ton of time, we have a tremendous buy-in from parents in our community who help run that program and buy into our philosophies that we're trying to portray. So I want to make sure that I compliment all those parents and families who are very committed.
And just so everybody knows out there, those are volunteers, Coach, correct? Straight volunteers.
They're volunteers, and they're putting in the time because they love, they want their daughters to be a part of our program, and they feel included at a young age. So that's really important. But I want to go back to your question, Keith, and that's a great question, because, we really emphasize in our practice all the time that all 15 of the kids who practice with me currently right now have equal importance, and they all have a job. And no joke, the Carly Mollerings, the Delaney Knowles, the Eva Scarberries, a couple of the kids who don't get many minutes. I'll take Selena Oskin, Delaney Seitz, 2 seniors who don't play much, are phenomenal culture people. They're phenomenal practice players. And that's all really, really important to have a successful team. So, while Gabby's job is to shoot and Maya's is to score and other kids are to distribute the basketball, it takes a whole program, I think, to be not only successful, but to do it consistently. And there's not a day I don't compliment those role players. Like you said, the Carly Mollerings and Delaney Knowles, the live eyes. Just those amazing things for us, only averaging. Those people are very.
Yeah, Coach is just freezing up a little bit.
Nope, did we lose you, Coach?
Once again, we got Coach Rod Parker, and hopefully we can get the connection righted there. His team currently ranked number 4 in the state, and you can see that the last loss came against Lawrence Central, who's currently ranked number 2 in the state. So hopefully we can get Coach Parker back here.
Yeah, and Columbia City, who's really, really good as well. That were a
I can't hear you,
Oh,
Jeff.
you got us now, Coach? Technology.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah, Coach was talking about building that culture, and he was getting that started, back, you feel like around the 2010 timeframe. I think Coach is going to try to rejoin us, Tim, real quick. And that's what everybody's trying to do. And it doesn't even matter what sport it is, starting it off at the lower level, get those kids gelling together, get them all that continuity that you need to be successful when you get to that varsity stage. And man, he's done it in a big way over there at Homestead. And yeah, the community's responded. Just look at the gymnasium they built for him.
Whew. Yeah, that's an outstanding. I mean, it's several gyms, Jeff. But yeah, their main gym is, it is the highest level. I was able to do a sectional there last year for the boys, and it was they got a whole media floor.
Yeah.
There's seating on all four sides of the court. They got a jumbotron in the center, kind of like you see at the Memorial Coliseum. It's a very tremendous place. And then all down that hallway, there's another 3 or 4 gyms. It is a wing of basketball that's been built by Coach Parker and Coach Johnson on the boys' side. Without their success, Coach Johnson over 500 wins in his career, going back to his Dwenger days before class basketball, and Coach Parker, is what 54 wins shy of 500, so he's going to get there as well. There's no question about that.
Well, that's what winning teams do and winning programs. They start in those lower levels, and you get interest generated in the program, and you get these younger kids looking up, and they looking up at the Gabby Helsons and the Maya Epps, and then even Maya and Gabby looking up to the Carissa McLaughlins, the Madison Parkers, those kids. I think that when those younger kids, they start to emulate some of the older kids, and they can't wait to be in that position where they can reach back and do some of the share some of the things that they've learned, as they move through the program. Coach, I was going to ask you, you have an interesting dynamic in that you have your daughter on the bench with you.
Yeah,
what is
so
that?
Cool.
That's got to be a special feeling to have your daughter that has been a part of so much success that you've had to be sitting on your right hand side.
It's incredibly special. The last 2 years have been wonderful, and selfishly, it's just fantastic to be able to spend that time with Madison in a game that we both love and have spent so much time together. But Madison's just been a great, addition to our program. She's been a great role model for the kids that really aspire to put in that time. I know you talk about Gabby and Maya and Whitney and all those kids, and even young kids in our program. She's been able to really give them, a great perspective being fresh out of the college game and helping develop them individually and bringing kind of, in a way, I've oftentimes said, a fresh light even to what I do, because we may be talking about defending chin action, let's say, and Madison's really good. Like, well, when we played BG and, this Purdue did this and defended it this way, and Akron defended it this way, or this is how they ran it. And so it really stirs up some great basketball conversations. And I think it's even helped allow me to grow as a coach the last couple of years.
And that's saying something. 446 wins on your resume, Coach, and that's a pretty good, impressive statement for Madison. There's no question about that. Going back to that, that's when we kind of gotten going with Summit City Sports, and what a great team that was. And that state title run, one of the best players we've seen in the city of Fort Wayne, and Carissa McLaughlin, who had an outstanding career at the collegiate level as well at Purdue and Marquette. But this group right here, they are special. And, do you ever sit back this year and think, man, I got another year with these girls?
Well, at the beginning of the year, I did make a comment to my staff. I said, all the investment that we make with these girls this year, it's a 2-year project. And in some respect, a 3 and 4 year, because my freshman class is very talented. And them having that opportunity to practice day in and day out with these juniors, I mean, they are improving by leaps and bounds. And there are some kids that are really going to come into the forefront here in the near future and be really good basketball players in the area. But I feel spoiled. I mean, it's almost one of those things. I made a comment this week. I can't believe that the season's like coming to a close. We're just having so much fun. You don't want it to come to an end.
Right.
But the positive of that flip side is what you said is I do have another year with them. I have another summer with them, and they're just a lot of fun. They work hard. They've got great culture, and just a unique group of young adults that have great personality.
Coach, last year is your first regional championship since the 2017 season. Throughout that time, you were still winning sectional championships, but just really tough to grab a hold of the regional. What did you learn during that time frame there that kind of culminated in last year's regional championship? Because, coming off so much success, like Tim said, a state championship in the 2015 season, but to have that little bit of a drought, which you can only say that really for your program in the area, what would you take from that time?
Well, I think the number one thing I took was that winning's hard. And at 4A and then that regional, it's a grind. And, sometimes it's the draw, sometimes it's the health, sometimes it's the matchups. And, I go back to, I think it was 2020, we had the second game of that regional, and we beat Zionsville, a top 5 team, in double overtime, only to come back and play number 1 in the evening and tied with 3 minutes to go and just don't make the shot or two we need to win. We played high level basketball, even though we didn't get out of there with a regional title. And, we beat Noblesville one year in overtime in the morning and came back and lost a tough one at night. So, it's hard. You can't take things for granted. And, that's one of the things that I really try to instill in my kids is that when you get into the big games, the top 5 matchups or getting deep into the tournament, it comes down to a matter of a few possessions, to be quite honest, oftentimes. And you got to be prepared for those. You really got to train your habits and your practice abilities and routines to where you're good at the details, because it's amazing how much those little details in games like that, the sprints, the box outs, all those things are going to determine in the fourth quarter how that game's played out and whether you win or lose. But there's no doubt, that was tough. There were a few years I had a really good team. I mean, when Patterson was I guess a senior, and Noblesville had that amazing run.
Yeah,
that year we went, I think 24-2 or 25-2, and we just could not match up to that defense and that guard play of Noblesville. And that team, if maybe 2 years later or 2 years earlier, could have won a state title if it weren't for Noblesville staying in our way in our particular regional. So, or if they were in the South half, I felt very confident we would have been down there in Indianapolis playing them, because that team busts all through every top 10 team in the state except Noblesville. And we just didn't have the guard play at that time to match up. And that goes back to that comment about sometimes it's matchups, from year to year.
Yeah, that 3/4 court press, that trap that they throw. I mean, there's not a lot of boys teams that were going to get around that trap. That was one of the most impressive performances defensively that I've seen, and Coach was there with me. It was very impressive.
Well, and I said at the time that was the best defense I coached against at the time in my 21 years, on the girls' side. It just, I mean, going to that regional game, I remember after they beat us in the regular season, the only team to beat us, we spent a lot of time. I mean, I thought I had it figured out, right? And then next thing you know, we're down 12-2. And I'm like, oh, my God, I didn't have anything figured out other than it's just good. So, that happens sometimes. But I guess the big thing is we've got a culture right now where we're constantly knocking on the door. And if you keep knocking on the door, hopefully we break through again and can get back down to Indianapolis.
So, Coach, let's talk a little bit about the game coming up, for the conference. I mean, obviously, when you take a look at Northrop, and you guys have had great games with them, and have been tremendous matchups. I think this is pretty much what everyone thought, even though some people say, and I'm included, I think that Northrop overachieved a little bit this year to get to this point, but, take nothing away from what Coach Jackson has done with her program. But what stands out when you take a look at Northrop and what you have to do to be successful?
Well, number one, Williams Thomas is just fantastic. I mean, she's the best athlete, I think, or scary athlete in our conference. I mean, last year we had such a difficult time staying between her and the basket, and she's very explosive. So she's the type of kid who can make 2 or 3 plays in a row to really change the momentum of a basketball game. And so she's definitely something that is going to be a big matchup for us. Swin Jackson is a very good scorer, shooter. We have to give her lots of credit on how good of a player she is. And the other thing, too, I'm really impressed with Miley Waring. That young lady has improved a lot since the time that she was at Lures. I really do. From her skill set just to being in great physical condition. They have 3 really good scorers and players on that basketball team, and their role players work hard. So when you can get that kind of combination, you're a good basketball team, and you can win on any given night.
And back to Williams Thomas, what impresses me so much, obviously her athleticism and her length, but getting into passing lanes and creating easy transition buckets for Northrop seems like that's a big difference maker in a lot of games for them.
Yeah, it is. And, the other thing I'm really impressed with is her motor. The girl works hard on both ends of the court. And so she extends plays, she makes plays, and she really gives them a big spark and energy and so on their team. So, and the other thing is we're going on the road. So it's exciting. I mean, and the way we've approached the game is no different than any other than we're excited that we've worked hard this year to put ourselves in a position to play for a championship tomorrow. So, we're excited that we kind of helped set the table on our end. And now we just have to go out tomorrow and play good basketball and hopefully come out on top.
And Coach, what is there? Is there one piece? Is there a couple pieces? Do you feel like you're playing the best basketball, or is there something that you guys need to improve on? I know it's just tomorrow, but we'll get into the sectionals here in a second. But moving in to make that state title run, what does the Spartans got to do?
Well, I think we're playing good basketball right now. And the nice thing is Carly's getting healthy. She just took the brace off this past week. So I think that's a big deal for her just to get to a point now where she's kind of playing with no restrictions physically. And she's a real important piece to what we do on both ends of the court, defensively and offensively. So, I feel like right now we're healthy. I feel like we've been improving throughout the season. We've played as good of a schedule as we could put together. So now it's down to the time that the kids, just have to stay mentally focused, play together. And I hope that we can really do a great job of displaying competitive maturity now that we're a year older than last year. And if we can do that, then I like our chances tomorrow. I like our chances going into the tournament.
Coach, when you take a look at your leadership, and again, that sometimes gets underestimated in regards to what you expect out of your players. What do you look for in leaders, or do they just kind of emerge for you, or do you say you're going to be our leaders? How do you put that whole leadership piece together?
Leadership is incredibly important, as you know, Keith, to having a successful program. So it's something that is not taken lightly. It's something that we talk about all the time. In fact, I think many coaches probably do this. I don't know, but we have a little thought of the day every day before we start practice in the circle. And so much of that is about leadership. And so much of it is about being a great teammate. We address all the time, the beginning of practices, the end of practices, what can we do today and what did we do today to make a teammate better? And that's a big situation. A lot of times when we in practice, kids will have to identify other kids in the circle that made them better today. And that can be done in so many ways, from a skill set to pushing them, to communicating them, to give them good passes, to be a better shooter, whatever it is. So we try and promote that and teach that as much as we can. But ultimately, you are going to have some kids who are just better leaders that others gravitate to and they trust. And you have some kids in your program that you realize are really good followers and don't want to be kind of out there on that island taking on that responsibility. So you kind of have to get the pulse of your team. And, this year, I believe we had multiple kids who could have been pretty good leaders, but ultimately it came down to two, in my opinion, this year that I felt encompassed everything we needed to do to move the team forward, and also not to create any animosity between maybe a couple people who were maybe equal type leaders, but different in their personalities. And so this year, Maya and Liv Fry are captains, and they've done a phenomenal job with it. They really have. But I want to go back to that a little bit, Keith, because I really think throughout the year, every kid in my program has been a leader at some point. And when they do have that opportunity to lead, then it's important that within our culture that we acknowledge that. So everybody sees that and everybody feels some ownership in that leadership piece.
Yeah, that speaks to the culture that you're continually trying to produce year after year. Coach, not to look too far ahead, but obviously this will be our only chance to talk and before sectionals start. Columbia City, there's a shakeup. Columbia City went back down to 3A. So no trip to Columbia City this year. You guys are actually hosting the sectional this year in your own environment. The clear favorite, obviously, in that sectional. But is there talk with the girls about, hey, we can still get beat any single night. We got to come out and bring it, whether we're playing anybody in the SAC that we've already played and beat this past season. How difficult is that, or is it even talked about with you and the girls?
Well, the important thing is we really try and emphasize the girls that we value every game of equal importance, no matter who the opponent. And we have to treat every game the same, no matter the opponent. Now, I'm a fool to sit here and not tell you that there are certain games when you're playing a top 5, a top 10, or a rivalry game, the kids are naturally going to get a bit more pumped up.
Sure.
But, we have to prepare the same for every game. And, we've already talked this week, really every game now that we have the rest of the season, we're playing for a championship. Tomorrow night's a championship game for us to win the conference. Next week, it's you win or you go home. So every game that you step out on that court, it is the most important game of the season right now. So I think my kids understand that. And we'll take one game at a time, no doubt about it. We've all seen sports. We know that's why we play the games, and anything can happen. We just got to go out and make sure that we can control the things that we can control. And with the work and time we've put in, that if we can control those, we should win a fair share of games. And if not, we should be right there in a position to potentially win them.
Coach, you're talking about leadership, and obviously you've had so many great leaders come through your program. But if you had to pull somebody to talk to your team tomorrow and you're looking at all your past players, is there one particular player that can talk to a group of young ladies on a basketball team and really reach them and send a good message?
I'll start right now with this year's team, and that'd be Liv Fry. And that's why I think this team is special, because, Liv Fry is not that prolific scorer, on our roster, but she plays a very important role. And, it's one of those things that when you talk about leaders too, they need to control the locker room. And I really believe that Liv controls the locker room. She controls what goes on outside the gymnasium with the kids. And that's all important, because in order for us to have a good culture, from a coach, you can only control what you do in practice, what you do in the time you get to spend with these kids. But when you talk about walking the hallways and what they do on Saturday nights together, there still has to be a culture that's maintained where they're tight knit and they're trusting each other. And if there are conflicts, they can communicate, have the maturity to work through them. And Liv Fry really does a fantastic job with that. I mean, I think all three of my seniors do right now. And that's not to take away from anyone else in my program, but that's a unique skill that Liv has. And that's one of the reasons, when she gets her minutes out there, that she works hard, and I'm so comfortable having her out there, because she's definitely a cohesive piece to our unit right now. If I go back in years past, I've had several of them, I think that were really good at different times. Josie Fisher was a phenomenal leader. Madison was a phenomenal leader with Carissa, those two, and so on. But there's been several of them. But this year, I think Liv Fry has done a fantastic job in that role.
Coach, talk a little bit real quick here about the role of your assistant coaches. I think sometimes they're a forgotten entity in regards to, especially the program, high caliber programs and high profile programs such that you've built. Talk about your role or their role in helping the overall atmosphere of the program.
The number one thing I've always said about an assistant coach is they have to be loyal and they have to be trustworthy. And I think it's important for coaches to be friends and have a friendship because, you have to have a family, right? If you're really going to have a great culture, and it has to start with the coaches that filters down through your program all the way to every kid. And I've been blessed because I think in high school sports right now, you see a big turnover oftentimes in your coaching staffs. It's harder to get middle school coaches now, I think, than ever. But I've been very fortunate because Todd Garman's been with me for, over 20 years. Kara's been with me for over 20 years. Nikki Gillis, who played for me, has been with me for 9 now. Ashley Strasser's been with me the last 3 as she's come out of school. And then Madison's been with me basketball-wise, her entire life. And we've talked basketball, whatever. And so now that she's on the sideline, I'm very fortunate because I trust and respect the input that they have. I trust and respect the commitment that they have to our program. And they work phenomenally well with our kids. And it's good that the kids trust them and can go to them for advice and help. And, and then the other thing too, I think is really important is they're really good sounding boards to the girls and they really understand them as people because I have to be the most intense one, probably the coaching staff in practice. And I naturally that way. And so, there's times I can get on a kid or whatever, coach them pretty hard, but Kara and Madison and Todd do a phenomenal job of circling back with those kids and really building them back up, explaining to them what they really need to do when they go back out there to make us better and to improve in a particular skill. And they buy in and they trust it. So I've told other people, Keith, and being a great question, that I truly believe that a good portion of our long-term success over the last, I think, probably 15 to 18 years has been a consistent coaching staff. And, it's just been in place. And I've been very, very fortunate to have that.
Well, again, Coach, we appreciate you taking time out tonight. We'll go get your competitor and Katie Jackson on here in a couple of minutes. So we'll let you go. But good luck tomorrow night. Good luck in sectionals and a run towards Indy. We really appreciate you joining us, Coach.
Well, thanks. I appreciate having me on. And I really appreciate you guys do a great show.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
No.
The head coach, Rod Parker, there joining us on the show. And we're going to take a quick 1-minute break, and then we will have Coach Katie Jackson up momentarily. You're watching the Summit City Sports Report.
White Shoes Kelly Chevrolet. We offer a wide selection of new and used inventory with a team that guides you to your perfect fit. Our certified pre-owned options ensure peace of mind with warranties and rigorous inspections. Competitive pricing, flexible financing, and convenient trade and services, making your dream Chevrolet a reality. Trust our experienced service team to keep your vehicle in top shape and enjoy free car washes as long as you own your vehicle.
And welcome back, everybody. Summit City Sports Report. We do have head coach Katie Jackson now joining us. Coach, thanks so much for coming on the show. 14-8. Actually, that was the record last year. But guys are having another great season, 15-6. And tomorrow, a matchup with Homestead for the SAC championship. How are you feeling about your program right now?
Can you guys see me? Can I ask you that first?
No, we can't.
No, we got a little computer icon, but we can hear you good.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to call Swin in to help me. It's always good to have a
That's the go-tos for technology.
110%.
Tim, do your kids come to you for technology advice?
No, I've been around you long enough, Jeff. I could usually pick it up pretty quickly. But if there's some gaming issues, then yeah, I'm definitely going there.
Because okay, time out. Let me see if I can do it on my phone.
Oh, you can join from your phone too if that works
better. That's what I'm trying to do.
Tim, you noticed that number 33 jersey over Coach Edmonds' shoulder there? Reminded me of big Shaquille O'Neal, but those are the wrong colors back there.
Yeah.
Right.
The gray and red. That's got to be an Elmhurst jersey.
It's got to be.
It is.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. So Swin said I have to go out and come back in. So
that's fine.
Allow
That'll
my
work.
camera. So
yeah, the link will be still live.
Okay.
But yeah,
whose jersey is that?
That's my son Chad's.
Okay.
And then that's James Hardy's jersey. My seniors always get on senior night. I always gave them their jersey. I put their name on the back just for that particular game and gave them their jerseys.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to get into some more of that stuff, Coach, because you had some great things that you implemented when you were the head coach there at Elmhurst. The Adopt a Player program, I thought that was a really neat idea.
Yeah.
What was that? What was that, Coach? Explain that.
So we had a program called the Elmhurst Family, and what we did was we had all of our varsity players just fill out a sheet of their favorite snacks and their favorite ball player, or just favorite things that they like to discuss or be associated with them. And what we did was we paired a family member. All of we asked all of the parents of the players to adopt a player other than their son.
Oh, wow.
So all 12 or all 15 of our varsity players had a parent that supported them, and they brought them snacks at the end of every home game. So it started off just being just a can of pop and a bag of chips. Well, before the season was over, they were coming in with grocery bags and and the kids were trading stuff. And so then at the end of the season, what we did was at our banquet, because the kids had no idea who their Elmhurst family member was. And they would give them encouraging notes and all these types of things. But then when we had our banquet, it was revealed who their parent was, and the kids stand up there with a rose, and they find out who their parent is. They go give them a rose, they give them a hug, and it was a neat thing, a real neat thing.
There's Coach.
Okay, so I had to join on Swin's computer. See, that's why it's great to have teenagers.
So you're about out of those woods.
I'm close. I'm close. Hi, everybody.
Hey, Coach.
Hey, Coach.
I'm fresh out of a workout, so here we go.
What's up, Katie Jackson?
Eddie.
Coach, just real quick, you spend your first 6 years at Northside. Last year coaching there is in 2006. And then you get back into coaching in 2022. You've had a great run with Northrop now in your fourth year. But what was that stretch like when you weren't coaching? Was it a major change from 2006 to 2022?
So backstory is Jalen was born in 2004. I found out I was pregnant with the twins in 2005. I had the twins in 2005, and I started reffing in 2006. So I was always around basketball, and there was a stretch in there actually for a semester. I went to PFW and coached with Chris Paul and Charity Middleton. And then as soon as the twins were able to play basketball, I coached them. So I was not away from basketball for any stretch of the imagination or of time.
Yeah, just not coaching, but coaching children.
Yes, I was around the sport all of the time. And when I stepped away at Northside, the idea was I was going to come back. I just took a leave of absence, and then I really enjoyed reffing. Then Swin was born, and I just stayed with reffing until this opportunity arose.
Well, Coach, before we get into the meat potatoes here of the interview, you got to be super proud of what you've accomplished and with your children. I mean, it's a basketball dynasty here in Fort Wayne. I mean, the Brookses, the Jacksons, you can name a couple other families. You're right up there. There's no question. How proud of you of Jalen, Sanaya, Nevaeh, and of course, Swin?
Well, people always ask me what the secret was. And I think it starts at home. So I'm extremely proud. When I was reffing, I literally took them with me. And I remember conversations in the car after, them watching Darby Maggard and Meredith Shipman and Austin Hatch and all these great players. And that's where they really began, I think, their love of the game. And it just kind of carried, throughout their lives. And we just spent a ton of time in the gym, and I always felt like the ultimate role model is the person at home, and that was me. And so we just spent an astronomical amount of time in the gym, and it fortunately has paid off. So proud is an understatement of what I am for my 4 kids.
Yeah, I've done a lot of basketball games over the past 12 years in the city, and even games that have none of your kids playing in that. I'd always see them in the gymnasium. So that definitely rubbed off, and you should be very proud of that, because it was noticed by me. It's like, okay, it's a Snyder game. What's Jalen doing here? Or, Jalen was just there last week at a game that I saw. So, it's very impressive. How important it is to you that he's back in town and just absolutely blossoming as a player and a man at Purdue Fort Wayne?
Well, it's bittersweet. So when he came back home, it was like, hey, this is where my mom played. My dad was a philosophy professor there. My dad actually coached at Purdue Fort Wayne. My younger sister played there. So it's kind of been, ingrained in us that it was part of us. But the opportunity to just go up the road and see him has been, again, bittersweet. And then just him being able, like last night, to come watch Swin play and play that big brother role for her. Has been impactful for her as well. And then I think one of the greatest things I love about Jalen is when things aren't going well, the first person he calls is mom. And it's like he's 5 years old again. Mom, let's go get shots up. And having the gym availability at Northrop to be able to do that has been great as well.
Coach, there's so many different ways we can go with this interview. And you know how I feel about your kids. They're all talented in their own right. They're all different types of players. How do they help each other, get better? And what was the thing that just pulled them all towards basketball? Was it you, or what was it that made them all say, I'm going to be the best basketball player that I can possibly be?
I think there's levels to that. I think the first thing was they were always in a gym, and it was just, we're there. So whether it was watching me ref or spending, I can remember hours we would go to Spiece, and I would ref 8 games, 10 games, good old AAU tournaments, the Bill Hensley Run and Slam.
Yeah.
I would literally pack blankets, snacks, and everything, and they would sit there for hours and watch some of the best basketball. I remember Rick Pitino being there, Tom Izzo, and they just saw it. And so naturally just being around it so much, I think you gravitate to it and you develop a love. And then we spent so much time in a gym outside of that. I was always a proponent that I'm never going to force anything on my kids. Like, they played soccer, they played volleyball, Jalen played football, the twins, Swin played flag football, but they always circled back to basketball. It just seemed like a natural fit. And Eddie, my love for Michael Jordan. So that was always on in our house. Like, they watched it all the time. And it was also a very safe place for them. Like, it was their place where, going through everything that they went through, it was that one place where they always felt like they could be themselves. And even till this day, when the twins come home and over the summer, when there's that pocket of time that everybody's here, we're at Northrop. The music's playing and they're in a gym. And now, instead of me kind of facilitating those workouts, sometimes it's Jalen. And so it's kind of like I've passed that along. I don't have to do it anymore. And they're helping each other. And then when they're on TV, they're always watching each other, cheering each other on. We have a family group chat, and every day there's, a prayer in there, and it's good luck to whoever's playing. So they still are very much connected in what the other ones are doing.
Yeah. Go ahead, Coach.
Oh, well, just to kind of finish that up.
No, you're
how
good.
Important is time management? You got the twins are at Valpo and Jalen's here and you're coaching and Swin's playing and how do you manage all of that? I mean, and on top of being a principal and what do you have like a 28-hour day, a 30-hour?
Well, I don't have days off typically. So
Yeah.
I have a calendar on my desk, like a big desk calendar, and it's literally just their games. And then it's, like the twins went today, they're on their Indiana State Evansville trip. So having those conversations and then knowing, tomorrow night we play Homestead for the SAC championship. And it's come home, let the dog out, and you're going to the Coliseum to watch Jalen at 9:00. Like there's not a whole lot of wiggle room. So you're like, I came home today, fixed dinner for Swin, snuck in a workout, did the dishes, doing some laundry, and here I am. But, when I'm doing my job at school, I have learned that you take your computer to the lunchroom when you're at the stand-up desk table and you're watching film and doing scout that way. Like if there aren't enough hours in the day. Time management is huge because I don't like to miss. Jalen played at Wright State, so practice gets over, you jump in the car, you drive, you get home at midnight, and you get up and you do it all over again. Mm-hmm. Because there's nothing like them looking up and seeing you in the stands and giving you a hug after.
Yeah. I mean, that's got to be a very special feeling. There's no question about it. But looking ahead here, what an outstanding matchup that you guys have put yourselves in the position to have tomorrow at home in the Den, 6:00, first game of a doubleheader. There's not a lot of games going on Thursday. Everybody can come to the Den for that 6 p.m. game, and they can go hit Jalen at 9 p.m. against Cleveland State, which, by the way, you can get 2 free tickets, folks, if you need to. But what have you seen in the progression with your girls this year from beginning of the season? Ran into a little bit of that stretch there in Christmas time where you took the 3 L's, and then your only other loss is against one of the best teams in the state in Columbia City. Where's the progression? What is the best thing that you've seen out of your girls moving throughout the season?
Well, we're very young, actually. I don't have a senior on my team.
Right.
I have a junior-led roster. I technically have 8 girls that dress consistently on varsity, and 7 of them are juniors. So I knew coming in that there were going to be some lumps in this because in my past years, I've had pretty consistent and solid senior leadership. And I didn't know who the leaders were going to be. And because of that, I think we hit some bumps. And then we also didn't have Miley early. She was coming back with ACL. And that was significant. And so we didn't know what our identity was. And that was hard for us. And so we thought, okay, are we a pressing team? Not so much. Can we? Yes, but that wasn't our identity. I didn't have the 6'1" twins and Lexi and Destiny and those kids. I had young kids that I really had to sit down and say, okay, let's figure out what our identity is. And so as we've progressed, we figured out what that is, and adding Miley to that was huge because now we have an inside presence and, playing smaller early in some games hurt us because now we can put Swin and Kayla on the bounce. And that helps us where before it was more Swin had to be an inside player, at least defensively. And it is advantageous for us to have Swin on the perimeter. We need her to knock down shots. And sometimes that wasn't happening early on just because we didn't have Miley. And so now, that was our build, post-Christmas was we're finally all back together. Now let's go do something. Let's go, make noise. And so that was it. And I think one of the greatest blessings is I don't have a senior on my roster. And so, looking to tomorrow, we don't have any seniors, but let's just go show up. Let's compete. Homestead's a phenomenal team. And the way our schedule has been, arranged is we are battle tested. I mean, we've been on the road, we play some tough competitions, and this is what we did it for, was to be prepared, facing Columbia City last night, facing Homestead tomorrow, and then going into the sectional.
Coach, when you take a look at your leadership, especially with a young group, and I'm just going to be honest, I am surprised that you had this kind of a season. Not because you didn't have talent, but I didn't know how soon they would mesh. And then obviously with Miley being hurt and coming back later, I don't know if you feel like they've overachieved or or you just expected to be good. I know that you've been successful, but who's kind of emerged as the leader and kind of kept the water steady through this tremendous season that your kids have had?
Well, I think they share it. I mean, if I had to pick somebody, I would say it was Swin. Like, she does it. It's just it's what she does. She's quiet, but she does it by action on the floor. And then I think it's every day it's somebody different, because I think Miley is starting to come into her own, and sometimes now she's starting to feel like she has a voice.
I like that.
Yeah. And Kayla, she can be it, and sometimes she's nails, and sometimes she is the other side. But Marion has stepped in, and one of the things that I like so much about them is they've grown, and that was the challenge. Like, let's just grow and see what happens. Like, we have absolutely nothing to lose, nothing at all. We have nothing to lose. Like, and just building that this is what we wanted, to host a section on our floor. And one of the things I told them is everything that I've ever accomplished individually as a basketball player, I never got to cut down a net. And that's one thing that you want to be able to do as a team. And if you have that opportunity to do it on your home floor, it makes it even that much more special. And so we've just kind of built toward that. And one of the things, like, as they develop their identity, is now they emerge as, moving up 2 other girls from JV, I'll have 9 seniors on my roster next year, which is amazing. And so now they're just learning, and learning how to lead is hard. You can't really teach people to lead. It's something that they have to learn how to do. And so we've done a lot of things differently this year. This year has stretched me as a coach. We start every day, and I know I'm saying this on a live interview, but our kids have brought scripture into our locker room. And they pray before every game, and it's been impactful. And each kid chooses one, and they share it, and why they share it. Just because we faced a lot of things, like, within our program. And when I talked about adversity, we had a girl, have some problems with her mom, and, kidney failure. And there was just some other kids that needed those types of things. And it's helped our locker room. It's helped the culture of our locker room, and it's given us structure before a game. And I like the way that our kids have embraced that and used that as, like, this is our identity. This is who we are.
Yeah, there's one thing that you're never going to have to do is apologize for talking about any type of God and upper power of Summit City Sports. There's no doubt about that, but we appreciate that. Going back to Miley real quick, I've known Miley since the middle school days. I actually coached her at St. Charles back in the day with my third oldest daughter. But she was always really reserved. Didn't really know how much to flex herself out there. Very skilled, but never really pushed herself to get out to that. I see a difference this year. Is that something that she just took upon herself? Was it you and your assistants that helped move that along? What's your thoughts on that?
So we met with every single girl prior to the season and kind of picked their brain about where they see themselves, how they respond to adversity. When things are tough in a game, how do you see yourself responding? And just having, like, that really heart to heart with Miley, like, okay, where do you see yourself? Like, you transitioned here from Lures, you guys want to stay championship. This is 4A, kid, and our schedule is going to be this. And, one thing is you have to fit into a new school. Northrop is way different from Bishop Lures, dynamic.
Way bigger.
Way bigger, and having supports in place. And I think that's one of the things that is advantageous about my job is I'm not a teacher, so it's not like they're knocking on my door and interrupting a class. They can come to the office, and when life sucks, they can come talk to me. And when life is great, they can come talk to me. And so I think having that extra layer of support has helped her. And I think it's helped her grandma, have her feel more comfortable being at Northrop, but really empowering Miley to say, hey, this is what I think my role is. And then counteracting that and saying, no, sweetie, this is what your role is. And, in practice, really making it a point to say, hey, we need to get the ball inside, and having different sets for her. I think that makes her feel like she belongs.
Yeah, make it more of a focal point where you're not just a role player, Miley. You're a very important part of the team.
Absolutely.
Coach, when you take a look at at Homestead and the game tomorrow night?
Woo!
Do you just treat it
Can't wait.
as another game, or do you know? I mean, how do you keep yourself? Because you're animated and you're an emotional coach, and you get into it, and that's what I like about you. You coach, you get after it. You don't just sit there and say, okay, go make it happen. But how do you? How do you approach the game tomorrow night and just say, all right, we're at home. What do you need to do? I mean, I know there's a bunch of questions in there that I just asked, but how do you approach the game tomorrow night?
So the first thing we talked about is what happened 2 years ago when we played them. And when we won, we talked about that. And then we talked about last year. And we talked about that game and all the things that we did within that game that caused us to not win. Whether or not it was if that basket counted or not, but what led up to those situations, and then even plays within those overtimes, having those conversations. And then, okay, Homestead is known, they're going to shoot threes. Okay, well, they're probably going to miss more than they make. They're going to shoot a ton. So let's play the odds. You know what I mean? And they're going to go on a run. So basketball is that. But we have to stick to who we are, right? And it's on our home court, and that's it. Like, what do we have to lose? I mean, nothing. They're if we go in there and we win, we're SAC champs. If we go in there and we lose, they're SAC champs. But as long as we give it everything that we have and we walk off the court and know that we gave our best effort, then we win, because we're building for next week. And so I think keeping the mindset, because they're young, like if I get all antsy and I'm like, oh my God, that's how they're going to respond tomorrow.
Sure. Yeah.
And we're trying to keep it in practice. Like this is where we are better. This is where they are better. And how can we just be better? And the whole concept of we just have to be 1 point better tomorrow. Like we're not going out there trying to beat Homestead by 20. We have to be 1 point better tomorrow.
And so is that where it's at, Coach? It's not about them. It's about Northrop and your girls and you guys playing your game.
Yeah, because we didn't do that last night. We didn't play our game last night. Like we missed layups. We turned the ball over. We didn't execute the scout. Tomorrow we have to beat Northrop. We weren't Northrop last night.
And for you fans out there, that was the Columbia City that they just played last night.
Coach, and go ahead.
Well,
I was going to say along those.
Go for it.
We're on the same page here. Coach, You're talking about that mental toughness, and maybe it wasn't there last night. How do you instill that or help instill that in the girls so that they know with 2 minutes left to go in the game in crunch time that they can perform their best and do what coach is asking of them?
So a lot of the times we do like situations in practice, and we kind of try to simulate the game and everything like that. And actually I started practice today and I pulled them all together and I said, I need to tell you guys something today. And it has absolutely nothing to do with what you guys did as basketball players last night. And it has something to do with you guys being human. And if you were at the game last night and you saw it, Swin went down, and I commended them for how they handled that situation. Because as I watched it back today on the huddle cam, Miley didn't even go back to play defense against Columbia City. She stood there with Swin. And Kayla and Briley turned and said something to the ref. I have no idea what they said, but animations, they weren't happy. And then as the whistle stopped, instead of really trying to huddle up, they kind of went over and stood over Swin, even though we were trying to, Coach Wiss was trying to keep them going. And so my message to them today was there's absolutely nothing we can do about last night. But I want to tell you that I'm proud as a coach that when one of our players went down, like the human component of it was so profound. And when I watched it back today, like they were so concerned. It didn't matter who would have gone down. Like that's just who they are. And that's the part that I think that you have to focus on. Like their kids, if I keep touching yesterday's loss, it's going to continue to hurt us. And so building on, okay, where did we lose that yesterday? Okay, we turned the ball over, we missed layups, blah, 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 blah. So focal points in practice today was, one, give them credit where credit is due. But then when we had those failures again in practice today, stop it and say, hey, this is where we failed last night. We can't do that again. Fake high, go low, stop throwing over the top passes. You got to finish strong, those types of things. And hopefully they listened, right? So that we don't do those things tomorrow.
Go ahead, Keith.
Well, I mean, you have a dynamic player in Kayla Williams Thomas, and just from talking to area coaches, the majority of them, everyone that I've talked to has said she is the single most difficult person to match up with. What makes Kayla, the player that she is, and what makes her so difficult for teams to defend it? Because you can't simulate what she can do. And obviously she can score on off, and then she can turn around and get a steal and score again, and then she can get another steal and score again. I mean, how would you describe her if someone was saying, "Hey, tell us about this explosive player you have in Kayla Williams Thomas"?
Well, so I absolutely enjoy coaching her. I have to say that first and foremost. And I think you just have to let Kayla be Kayla when you're coaching her, right? You have to see these are her strengths. And you have to know, like, she plays with a certain level of aggression. And so in that, she may turn the ball over 3 times, right? Because she's so good going downhill. She can turn the corner. Like, if she takes off, she gets the ball off the rim and she gets you in transition, like, she's probably going to score 4 out of 5 times. That other one, she either is going to miss the layup or she's going to turn the ball over. But you have to know that when she is in the zone, you put her at the top of that 1-3-1. She's so long. She's so aggressive on defense that it's hard to get the ball past her. She has the ability to rebound, so to grab the ball off the rim and take it in transition. That's a really hard skill for a girl, especially at the high school level, and to be able to handle it the way that she does. Olivia Rice is a great defender, and to have a secondary defender in Kayla, and then also have Swin, to have 3 girls that can actually guard the way they do, has been a blessing, and they're only going to get better. And then to put Miley behind her to say, okay, if you beat me, I'm going to toss it. But and with Kayla, I think you have to just say, hey, this is what she brings to the table. I mean, and to be able to put her on the ball, I think one of the things people don't give her credit for is her ability to pass. I think she's improved on that this year, and decision-making. Last year, Lexi ran the point for us. So, Kayla and Swin didn't have the ball in their hands as much as they have this year. And I think Kayla has improved in that. And that's a place where I've challenged her, land on 2 feet, pivot, kick it. And if you watch Kayla play, she does have, it's like sometimes I think it's the twins out there, the way that her and Swin see each other, like backdoors and those types of things. But I think one of the things for Kayla is she's long, she can jump, and she can run. And there's nobody else like her in the SAC. There isn't.
Yeah. There's not a lot of people like her in the state, to be honest with you.
No, not at all.
We talked to Coach Parker before we talked to you, and it's the role players that are so important with winning championships and really being the ultimate team that you can be. The Briley Days, the Olivia Rices. Talk about those Marion. Talk about those role players that do you have to let them know throughout the season how important they are, when they're not getting the numbers or the huge amount of minutes that some of your other players are? Is that a focus for you as a coach? Is it ever talked about?
Absolutely. So we talk about the 95%, like, what are you doing the 95% of the time you don't have the ball in your hand? And I will say it 110% all the time. Olivia Rice is probably the best on-ball defender I have ever seen. And she's so good. At 5'5", and I think she plays bigger than that. She is probably our best 95% kid. I mean, she rebounds. If there's a 50-50 ball, she's going to get it. And I'm not quiet about that when I say it. In the locker room, we aren't who we are if we don't have a kid like Olivia Rice on the floor, because I'm giving the best matchup to her every single time. She just knows that's my role, and she accepts it. And she stepped out of her comfort zone a little bit this year, and she's starting to shoot threes. And as she gains more confidence in herself in that, it's only going to make us stronger. And in Briley too, we're her a different role tomorrow, and just saying, hey, this is it, and I have faith in you to do this. I think she's come into her own this year. Last year she didn't have as big a role. And then, Nehemiah Anderson, my sophomore, and Marion, they all know, okay, we have the big 3, and that's Kayla, Swin, and Miley, but we can't win 15 games if we don't have those other girls either. There's no way, because the pace that we play sometimes, like those kids need breaks and, fouls, whatever it is. Every single kid on our team, I feel like, and I hope they know their importance to our team.
And Coach, what would it mean to the Northrop girls program, yourself, your players? You mentioned it, you haven't cut the nets down before. To cut them down tomorrow, you'll have to do it quickly, so you have to get to the Coliseum. But, how important or how much would that mean to you as a person, as an ex-player, and as a coach of young ladies?
Well, I know it's Northrop girls basketball, but it's never about me. It's about those girls. And I just want them always to have an opportunity to say, hey, I did this, and to come back and walk through the hall and see their picture on the wall. That was something when we played at Northside the other day, they were like, Coach Jackson, where's your picture? Where's your picture? I never cut down a net. Never cut down a net. So it's up there. Like when I coached, and my younger sister won an SAC championship. It's up there for that. And that was something that I told him last night in the locker room. Like, hey, I was inducted in the Hall of Fame at Northside High School, and my picture is not on the wall. Like, make that make sense. You know what I mean? I would give all of that up to say that I was part of a championship team. And that's what it's like. At some point in your career, you have to have that experience. And I said, I had 3 sports for 4 years, and I never, ever, ever.
And my last question, Coach, you guys get to host the sectional next week. You drew Northside, obviously a favorite. We know anything could happen, so I don't want to dismiss any opponent. But on that bottom half, you have Snyder, who you beat at the Den a couple of weeks ago, and a surprising Carroll team that can really shoot the basketball. How much have you guys looked forward to that sectional? Do you have your assistant coaches already looking ahead of it? How do you work with looking ahead to sectionals?
So I think everybody does it. You can't, the way that it's designed is, you play Friday, you turn around and play Saturday. So the worst thing to do is to not be prepared. So Snyder plays Carroll Friday night, so we're going to go. Obviously, we did original scouts earlier in the year when we played them, but, things change in weeks. So, go Friday and scout them again, and then, add to your scouts. But you won't know till Friday night who you're playing. Obviously, we'll hopefully advance, and, we'll sit and watch that game Friday night and then prepare at shoot around, who we're going to face. But, our shell drills that we design throughout the week, we implement, other teams' offenses, whoever our scout team is. And so, having that preparation, like you don't want to be unprepared. Like, that's the worst thing you could do going into a championship game on a Saturday night when you have a 24-hour turnaround. So, it's better to be over-prepared than just sit there and wake up Saturday morning and say, we're playing Snyder, or we're playing Carroll. So, as a team, a lot of the girls are going to go Friday night. Homestead was at our game last night. I mean, that's what you do, is you prepare. And to have a whole week of practice leading up to it allows us to do those things, talk about tendencies, review film, and all of those things. I'm a big proponent of film, and, we do scout for every single team, and our kids sit down and they go through X's and O's, and we player personnel and all of those things, and just remind them, like, obviously you have to win Friday first, or Saturday is not non-existent, but you want to have those conversations long before Saturday morning.
Coach, you've been talking a lot about cutting down nets, and has to be a great feeling. Northrop, the last time they won a sectional championship was in 2009. Do the girls understand that, and do they understand how huge it would be if you guys were able to kind of get over that hurdle this year?
We've talked a lot about the history of Northrop girls basketball. 2 years ago, Leslie Johnson came back and spoke in our locker room and just talked about, historically, at least when I was playing, Northrop was dominant. And then they went through, a time where they maybe were less dominant, et cetera, et cetera. But just understanding the history, we were talking about Lori Minerding and state championships in 1987 and her being Miss Basketball. Those are conversations we have often, just to make them aware. And, Walter Jordan's come back and said the same thing when he comes back for his camp. Like, it's time. Like to be established and to be able to do that for our program would be amazing. And for our school, like we talk about all the time, like let's do it for our school. Let's do it for our Northrop community.
Yeah, absolutely. For the whole 260, it would be special.
Yes. Yeah.
Coach Edmonds?
Yeah. And again, I'm not trying to bombard you with a bunch of questions, but when you take a look at yourself and you evaluate yourself as a coach, and then when you have your exit interviews, what are some of the things that you talk to your kids about when all the smoke is cleared and you get ready for, because again, you're going to be right back in this position again next year with a veteran group. You're going to be one of the top teams in the state again. What are some of the things that you talk to your kids about in your exit interviews going into the next season, summer into the next season?
Well, a lot of the things we talk about is, talk about things that you did well. And then we always try to commit to, 2 to 3 things that we want to get better at, whether it's, individually or whether it's, maybe a leadership concept, something like that. And then we commit to whatever we're going to do in the off season. And that's huge for us. I actually have a couple kids that play softball, Riley and Marion, but outside of that, and Olivia is a phenomenal track athlete. Mm-hmm. But we talk about, what does June look like? And those are our commitments. Like, if this is where we are, what are our goals for next season? And now how are our efforts going to align with what we're trying to achieve? And then we just talk about, honest conversations, and it's accountability. Like, where were you deficient this year? Where do you feel like you did well? And with a lot of these girls, it's where have you grown? Kayla led the conference in scoring last year. She's right back up there. But if you look at any of those other girls, they weren't even close. You know what I mean? So, I look at, has doubled her production. I didn't have Miley last year, but where have you grown even in the last, couple games? Like last night, she had a double. She's grown. Briley's a more offensively minded. And, Olivia has, she was a 6th man last year. She stepped into a starting role and she's made herself a presence out there. So those conversations, we just sit down and honestly, we're just completely, transparent, and we just have conversations. And then I say, well, this is what I see, and this is where I would like for you to be.
Sure.
Great stuff, Coach.
Thanks, Tim.
Well, Tim, you got the game tomorrow, you and Keith, and you guys will also be at the Northrop sectional. Going to be a lot of excitement over there at Northrop in the next 10 days. So, Coach, I know we wish you all the best. We'd love to see you, get over that hurdle there and get that sectional championship for the Bruins.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, good luck, Coach, tomorrow night. Good luck next week. And, hopefully, Coach and I can see at Marion, which is usually where the 4A regional is, and Bill Green Auditorium, which is just a great venue. But good luck tomorrow night and good luck next week, Coach.
All right. Thanks, you guys, so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Coach.
Proud of you, Katie.
Sorry about that, guys. So head coach Katie Jackson there. Like you said, Tim, big game tomorrow, huge. Big sectional next week. I mean, when you look at how Northrop's the favorite, but in the same sense, they've been the favorite 2 years ago and lost a heartbreaker. I mean, it's been tough with Snyder having such good teams during those previous 3 years, but it seems like this could be the year. So let's just take one more break, and when we come back, Tim and Coach Edmonds are going to break down the sectionals here in the 260. We'll be right back.
Why choose Kelly Chevrolet? We offer a wide selection of new and used inventory with a team that guides you to your perfect fit. Our certified pre-owned options ensure peace of mind with warranties and rigorous inspections. Competitive pricing, flexible financing, and convenient trade and services, making your dream Chevrolet a reality. Trust our experienced service team to keep your vehicle in top shape, and enjoy free car washes as long as you own your vehicle.
Welcome back, everybody. Summit City Sports Report, number 43 on the season. And Coach Edmonds, for a program that it's been a while since they've enjoyed title success. Sometimes you just got to get over the hump just to kind of break that barrier. Have you ever been through a season like that, or through a grouping of seasons where you feel like, hey, we got the better team, we just got to learn how to win the big game?
Well, I'm going to take it a different direction, but come back to what you're saying. One of the most difficult things to do is win when you're expected to win. And everyone's telling you how great you are. You've had a great season, and when I was fortunate enough to have the great kids and great teams that I had at Elmhurst, and we won. I can just remember the year we went to state in 2003. We won 16 of our first 19 games, and but we didn't win the conference, and and we won back-to-back sectionals and back-to-back regionals, but we just could not get past. We couldn't get past Bishop Dwenger. We struggled with Concordia, and so it's tough. It's tough when you feel like you have all the pieces in place and you have the kind of kids that you feel like can get you where you're trying to go, but for whatever reason you don't play well that particular night. And I can understand what Coach Jackson was just sharing, because she's had some talented teams, the last couple through 2-3 years, and to not come out of that with a sectional championship is tough. But again, there's an element, and I don't like to necessarily say luck, but there's an element where things have to go well for you,
right?
And because you don't know, sometimes kids, they, when the lights are the brightest in a sectional game, they're different. They might show up different. Right. All of a sudden, especially when it's a team that you're supposed to beat, you've already beaten them.
Yeah.
I see that at the college level. I watched Kansas play University of Central Florida. They beat them by 50. And then last night with 2 minutes to go in the game, they're down 5. So you just never know how kids are going to show up, especially when you're expected to win or a team you've already beaten. And they understand. They understand. If we lose, we're done.
Yep.
And sometimes kids, they respond differently when that kind of backdrop is in front of them.
Yeah, we heard Coach Parker talking about the mental approach, and Coach, just like you said, if you're a favorite and you're losing late in the game, you might try to do things more than what you're capable of doing, right, or outside of the realm of your capabilities. Right. And sometimes the fundamentals and things get tossed to the side when you're trying to kind of overextend yourself.
Well, especially when a team that you're playing against, all of a sudden they're having the night, and you're like, well, where did this come from? Where they just start dropping threes or everything's an and one, and your leading scorer is having a tough night. She can't score. I watched that again the other night when I watched Warsaw, who's again one of the top teams in the state, when they played against Homestead. Their leading scorer was locked up. She could not, and they didn't respond well. They didn't know what to do. They're like, wait a minute, we're used to you scoring 22, 25 points a game, and you have 2 in the first half and 2 in the second half. And so you just never know how kids are going to respond. When that favorite role is always, I know coaches are like, no, we don't want to be the favorite. Just say we're one of the teams. No, Coach Parker, he knows that Homestead's the favorite. Coach Jackson knows that Northrop's the favorite to win their, but that's just on paper. You got to go out and do it.
Yeah.
And you just never know when kids are what they're going to do that particular night, how they're going to show up. And, you hope they're going to be mature and handle it as just another game. But in the back of their mind, especially if it's close late, you don't know what they're going to do. You hope they're going to make good decisions, and you trust that they will. And hopefully things will work out in that way.
Right.
Well, no matter what happens, one thing we definitely know is Homestead and Northrop are going to be really good again next year as well.
No doubt.
You think they're good now?
I know it.
Wow. And Snyder's another team that's just going to be better next year. no disrespect to Sandlin and the seniors over there at Snyder, but another year of maturity for that backcourt, and another year of high school basketball for Janaea Cooper, who's going to be, in my opinion, one of the best players to ever come out of Fort Wayne, as long as she continues on her path. They mentioned her in the same breath as Tiffany Gooden over there at Snyder. Yeah, if that tells you anything.
Yeah. That tells me a lot, because Tiffany Gooden was literally just like a legend in our area. She was on our all-star team in Little League playing with the boys and batting in the 3 spot, Tim. What's that tell you?
Yeah, shout out Georgetown. That's when you were little brother, though, to St. Joe.
Wrong. That's a big wrong.
That's changed nowadays.
Well, guys, let's take a look at these sectionals real quick. This is Class 1A at Bethany Christian. And Fremont, they're the favorites in this one. They're ranked number 9 in the state. They beat Lakewood Park earlier this year. Lakewood Park's having a great season. This is one of those brackets where you kind of wish these two schools were on the opposite ends. But what are your thoughts on the Bethany Christian sectional?
Yeah, so you're right, 100%, Jeff. With that top of the bracket, especially with football and like the 4A sectional, where you're looking like, what's the draw going to be? Because it's so important with the draw, and to have Fremont and Lakewood Park together at that first game is really tough for both of those kids. But the other thing is that could make an advantage for Blackhawk Christian. Blackhawk Christian has an outstanding freshman in Desi Pope. Malia Steele, an outstanding senior for Blackhawk Christian. They've beaten some really good teams this year, and that could help Blackhawk Christian. They play a lot of Fort Wayne teams, so it'd be an interesting thing if Blackhawk Christian can get to that end point, whether it be Lakeland or Fremont. In that sectional final, and as coach knows, one game, anything can happen. It doesn't matter. Throw the records out, anything can happen, especially in a high pressure situation of a sectional final.
Sure, and you said something right before you got into your points that you were making. Let's see these tournaments. I think it would only be beneficial to everyone involved. But again, I understand the mystique of Indiana basketball and the little guy getting a chance to beat the big guy. But to see two teams that arguably could be the favorite of that particular sectional to play in the first game is tough on both. But also coaches say, well, we're going to have to play them anyway. We might as well play them now. So, so I get that point too. So.
And Tim, to your credit, Blackhawk Christian beat Concordia. Concordia beat Northrop earlier in the season. I mean, absolutely, they've got a shot in that sectional.
Sure,
there's no question about it. It's up there for anyone to win. Of course, I think the winner of that Fremont Lakewood is probably the favorite to win it. But and if I had to pick right now, I would probably take Lakewood. Ava McGrady's just having a great season up there in Angola. So, but you never know. I mean, that's the Frankfurters can go out there. They've had a great season as well. Sure. And Fremont can make that run as well.
And that's as Chris Berman will say, that's why you play the game.
Yeah, that's why you roll it out.
You don't have to beat them in a series. You only have to beat them one time. Mm-hmm. So,
and he'd also say the Raiders. Guys, 2A sectional here. Bluffton, man, they're ranked number 6 in the state. They got a 20-2 record, acting like they're Homestead over here. This is a fun sectional right here. The Bluffton Tigers have done just a great job throughout their whole athletic department, and they're going to be heavy favorites in this one. A sectional that has Bishop Lures and Woodland in it, some of our close area schools.
Yeah, Jeff, don't sleep on Justin Jordan and the Whitco Wildcats. They have some outstanding AAU players that have played a lot of top-level basketball throughout the summers over the past several years. He's one of the best young coaches in Northeast Indiana over there at Whitco. Do not look ahead of Whitco, but obviously Bluffton at home hosting the sectional, only 2 losses on the season. They are definitely the favorite. But I think Whitco can sneak up and they can pull a sectional title in the right recipe. And I trust, and I know Justin Jordan. I outstanding basketball player, great coach, great AAU coach. I trust his game preparation if it gets to that point. But Woodland's not a tough out to start it either for Whitco. So you got to get past that first. But yeah, Bluffton's definitely a heavy favorite in this sectional.
Well, and I guess I'm taking a look at Bishop Lures, and they won the state last year. And I'm not sure how many of those kids have come back. Obviously,
not a lot, Coach.
They lost a tremendous player in Miley Waring, but championship pedigree is something that you can't teach that. And I'm sure that those kids would love to pull that upset, and if they're fortunate enough to get by Adams Central, I would say give us a shot at Bluffton. They haven't played us. Yeah. Let's see what we can do, and it's kind of like what Coach Jackson was saying. What do we have to lose? So let's go play the game. And again, I keep saying this: we don't have to beat them in a series. We only have to beat them one time.
Right.
And Reese Roadhamel, one of the main cogs that's back. Sure. She's one of the lone seniors on that roster. Sure. They play a lot of juniors, a couple of freshmen, new head coach. Reese Roadhamel, I wanted to throw her name out there because, with all the success she's had in her 4 years at Lures, to have kind of a down year in her senior year, I wish the best for her. She had a great game against Dwenger this past Friday night in the Battle of the Bishops. So shout out Reese Roadhamel and good luck to the Lures Knights to get past that daunted Bluffton team. But like Coach is saying, you got to beat Adams Central first. The Flying Jets, they love that program up there at Adams Central.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, another great athletic department for sure. Yep. Guys, this is going to be a very entertaining sectional to keep an eye out on, no doubt about it. And Tim, you're right. I mean, this is lined up for Whitco to possibly be in that championship game, and we'll see if it's going to be Bluffton or maybe a Bishop Lures, like Coach said, just 1 year removed from winning state.
Yep.
Moving on to the Norwell sectional in 3A. Area school for us, New Haven, Heritage, Belmont sitting there at 19-2. What an outstanding season the Braves have had as well.
Yeah, and I'll start. I'd be shocked if this is not a Belmont Norwell sectional final. Yes. Norwell has ran it. They play a tough schedule, does Norwell. Belmont plays a lot of the SAC schools as well. And plays top-level 3A teams. Belmont is a different club this year. They're known for their outstanding volleyball. They got one of the best teams that Belmont's had in years in this 19-2 run. But when you look at Norwell, Coach knows about her. Vanessa Rossworm is one of the best scorers in the state. They have an outstanding club. Coach Thornton, one of the best in the business. They're at Norwell and Ossian. So, I expect this to be a Belmont Norwell sectional final. I do expect Belmont to pull through it. But Norwell can beat Belmont in any given night, in my opinion.
Sure. And I'm not sure how they did when they met earlier this year. I'm sure that Belmont won. I'm not sure what the score was, but Coach Thornton, I just have a tremendous amount of respect for what he's done, how he goes about his business. I think he's one of the most underrated, very good coach, not only in Northeast Indiana, but in the state as well. So he'll have his kids ready. They won't look past anyone, but I know that they've got Belmont in their rearview mirror, and can't wait to see them if they have an opportunity to play them.
Yeah, Coach, the first matchup was Norwell at Belmont just on January the 18th, so 11 days ago, in a 3-point victory.
There you go.
Yeah, three-point victory there for Belmont. So that is going to be a tight game if both teams are able to make it to the championship.
And real quick, Jeff, just to piggyback on Coach's thoughts about Coach Eric Thornton, his youth program, we talked about Homesteads earlier. We've talked about Blackhawk Christians with Matt Roth on Monday. The Norwell youth program, it's like Warsaw as well. Outstanding. They have 1,000-point shot club that their middle schoolers do. It is a well-run youth program, and you see the fruits of the labor year in, year out.
Sure.
Boy, there sure does seem to be a correlation between well-run youth programs and success at the varsity level.
Well, if you want to be successful, you have to have a youth program.
Yeah.
And the coaches that don't usually are not very successful, because what you want is program sustainability.
Right.
And you just don't want to have we had a great year 10 years ago and we haven't been anywhere near that since. If you really want to consider yourself one of the top programs, you have to start building at the lower levels and getting those kids excited about being a part of Belmont basketball or Warsaw basketball or Homestead or some of these other tremendous programs, Norwell's program, let's say. But you have to, if you want to be good, you have to have a program at the lower levels.
And if you want to be great, it's absolutely 100%. You have to get that done.
No doubt.
100%. Well, now over to Concordia, the 3A sectional here. This is always a very interesting sectional because you got two heavy hitters from the SAC and then some of the other top teams from their respective conferences, most notably the NE8 here with Leo and DeKalb. Garrett, which is always a strong girls program. East Noble having a nice year, and Angola's got a great athletic department. But once again, this is a fun sectional.
Yeah, this is one that I think 3 or 4 teams can win, to be honest with you. Dwanger's still a work in progress. Leo and head coach Chappelle, Dwanger and Coach Comer, longtime coaches on the girls' side. East Noble can sneak up on you. Concordia at 9-12. Don't let that record fool you. Sure. Olivia Bollinger, one of the best players in the city, no question about it. She can light you up for 30 in a game. It can happen. There's no question about it. DeKalb is a very talented team. That Dwanger Angola game for a first round matchup, that's pretty intense. No question. And I truly think that, 3 or 4 teams could win this Concordia sectional, which would not shock me if it's Concordia, if it's DeKalb, if it's Dwanger, Angola, or even Leo. So I just named 5 right there.
No doubt. DeKalb's got a tremendous player in Ashley Cox.
Huge.
Just one of the top players in the area. And it's just going to be fun watching these teams beat up on each other. And I like when you can go into a sectional and you don't know that means you have to go watch all the games. You can't just assume that someone is going to win and because they have the better record, because again, you don't know who's going to have that night, and that's what's so much fun about this March Madness or this one and done, because there might be some person that scores 5 points a game and all of a sudden she's got 20 and a half and you're like, where did she come from? And that's what's most fun about watching these tournament games.
Yeah, most definitely. Brings out the best competitor in you, or at least reveals it.
Right.
The Northrop sectional right here, guys. This is the one you guys will be at. We've been talking about it pretty much all show long, but it'd be really nice to see Northrop kind of get that monkey off their back and get that sectional championship, if you will. But man, Carroll and Snyder, that's not easy wins.
Yeah, Coach Redding and Carroll, he's been there, done that. Nothing is ever going to surprise him in the game of girls basketball on the high school level. Coach Reggie Tharp, what he's done to flip the script on the Snyder program has been so impressive. Playing with a younger group this year. Then, he was blessed with the Nene Donahue and the Jordan Poole are both D1 basketball players right now in their freshman years in college. But Northrop and that matchup against Snyder or Carroll, Northrop's beat them both this year. So that sectional final, I think, is going to be so intriguing, 7 p.m. Saturday night. It's one of the reasons that Coach and I wanted to do this sectional is because of that intrigue. And you're talking about 2 high-level teams, whether it's Snyder and Carroll against Northrop, whatever it is. it's going to be a fun Saturday night. Big shout out though to the Northside program. Those girls have battled the Aubrey Bleakies, and they have battled the 4 wins. Doesn't necessarily put them in a nutshell, in my opinion. I know Coach Keith feels the same way, that this isn't a 4-win team. They what they've done for the Northside program to make it respectable this year and in the past year, major kudos to the players there at Northside. But obviously Northrop, huge favorite. But I truly think that Northrop will win this sectional. But Snyder or Carroll, whoever wins that game, they could pull the dub as well.
Well, and in that Northrop Northside game, there's nothing more scarier than playing a team that has nothing to lose.
Yes.
Right? So go play that game, and we're not expected to do well. Okay, so what do we expect? And you go out and you play the game. But that Snyder and Carroll game is obviously very intriguing, and Northrop's going to have to play. I mean, obviously we expect them to get past Northside, but then playing against Snyder and Carroll, again, you're playing at home and you want to feel like, this is our gym, these are our rims, this is our floor. Even though the baskets are 10 foot all over the country, still this is our gym, and what a way to have things lined up, and hopefully the stars are lining for Northrop to win that section.
Yeah. And Tim, to your point, Northside 4-16 record. A lot of people would scoff at that, but it has been getting incrementally better year in, year out, to where Aubrey Bleaky is going to be signing with the University of St. Francis tomorrow to play for Coach Henney and the Cougars. And that's a program, Tim, that has won national titles in the past and is 19-2 right now, ranked number 14 in the country. So that if you're a legend, you got to feel very, very good that one of your own is going to a program like that.
Yeah, and they're still in the second best conference, in my opinion, in the state. They got to play this top level competition from 4A down to the reigning state 2A champions and Bishop Lures. Like, the SAC is not an easy gauntlet to deal with. But to have those type of players, and now when Northside's on the schedule, that opposing coach isn't looking past them. They are preparing for them to make sure that Bleaky doesn't drop 25 on you. They're making sure that those things don't happen. And we couldn't say that in the past a little bit with Northside. So yeah, I get it. You look at 4-16, you think, oh my goodness, they're horrible. It's not the case, folks. I've seen them several times. Coach has seen them several times. They can beat any team any night. They almost beat a really talented DeKalb team, had them, up until about 4 minutes left to go in the game, and DeKalb made a really good run and ended up winning that game, I think, by 8 or 9. So, it's shout out to the Northside girls, man. You just keep it going. Keep it going.
Yep, I agree.
Most definitely. And then the last sectional, we're going to take a look at the Homestead sectional. Homestead, by far one of the best teams in the state. They should handle this sectional pretty easily. I believe it would be number 19 in their program's history if they were to win this one. So,
yeah, and Coach Laisha Gorman, you've done a great job at Wayne. Another deal where you make yourself respectable. The opposing coaches got to prepare for you, and Wayne has been able to beat anybody that's thrown into them this year. Of course, Homestead's just that different animal. They are the favorite. They're probably the favorite to come out of regionals, depending on the draw, which we love so much. But that Southside, I expect Huntington North to take care of business against Southside. Southside's got a lot of youngsters under head coach Juanita Goodwell, who's got so much championship pedigree on her side. But she'll get that back. Huntington North's a solid team. Doesn't score a ton of points. They're very methodical on their offense and tries to limit possessions for the opposing team. But I expect that to be a Homestead Huntington North sectional final. And of course, I expect Homestead to win that sectional.
Yeah, I do as well, Tim. I think that Homestead is far and away the favorite to win this tournament. But again, I keep saying this because you just never know. You don't know who's going to to again have that particular night where they keep their team in it. And I know Coach Gorman, Laisha Gorman, and the people that she has on the bench, including her dad, Juan Gorman, and having him on the bench with her, and they were a part of the tremendous success that we had at Elmhurst High School, winning a state championship in 2010. So, with that being said, I think that Wayne Homestead will be an intriguing game. I expect Homestead to win. I expect Huntington North to beat Southside and Homestead to emerge as champion of that particular section.
Yeah, guys, and I just got this pulled up. It's Homestead sitting with 18 sectional championships, and there's some pretty fun numbers here when you're looking at them sectional championship wise. We talked about Northrop; they're sitting with 11. Snyder's got 16. Canterbury with 15. Remember, Canterbury right there around 2007, 8, 9. They were a premier program.
Yes.
Was it Kendall Fincher and then Darby Maggard?
Yes.
But leading the way is Bishop Lures with 22 sectionals.
Yes.
And Tim Norwell sitting with 17.
Yeah, and Jeff, not to hate on it at all, but the correlation is the lower class programs in the city of Fort Wayne, when they play against the Fort Wayne competition year in and year out, it's no shock that those are the ones that have won the most sectionals.
Yeah,
no doubt.
You know, when you're getting into 3A and especially 4A, when you get to regionals, like what we would talk with Coach Parker, you're playing in Noblesville, you know, or a Fishers, or, you know, a Penn, or you're playing top level 4A teams. And it's a difference maker. Even Coach Jackson said it when she brought Miley in. All right, this isn't 2A, kid. You know, we're going to play the top level competition in 4A across the state. And it's a different, but that's nothing to take away from those wins and those sectional wins. I just wanted to point that out.
Most definitely.
It is, you know, it's not minor leagues, big leagues, but it's just different.
Yeah, and we've been saying that for years with Bishop Lures and football. To take their licking a little bit in the SAC. Now they compete for SAC championships, but in the past, and then you get to the postseason and everything's good to go. And along those lines, Tim, 100%, every year it's at Marion, the regional. And then you're
usually the North 4A is at Marion, yeah.
Can we get a semi-state or a regional at Carroll High School maybe?
So I talked about this, you know, I don't know if it was Monday when we talked about it, but it's, you know, the volunteers. You got schools got to have the amount of volunteers to be able to work it. I think we were talking about the SAC tournament, holiday tournament at Wayne. You have to have the personnel to be able to handle that day of regionals or semi-state. Yeah. Now, the building can definitely handle it. There's no doubt about that. The parking would be no issue at all, especially at Carroll. You know, but do you have the volunteers? Do you have enough people to work it? I mean, when we go to Marion, we see the same people, or we go to Logansport, or we go to Kokomo. I've seen the same people for 10 years. Yep. You know, those people are ingrained in high school basketball. Just hasn't filtered up here as much. But yeah, you know, we'd love to drive 20 minutes instead of an hour and a half, hour and 40. But there's no question about it. I mean, we'll go where our teams are, but of course, it would be really cool to see that in town.
Yeah, and the last time that happened, Tim, was that Homestead and Penn, maybe in 2014 at a semi-state.
Carroll had was it a regional or a semi-state?
It was a semi-state.
I don't think it was that long ago, though. I feel like it was within the past 5 or 6 years. And I think it was a semi-state, Jeff.
Yeah, no, and I'll pull it up real quick because that was Parker and McLaughlin's team there. So, and that was a loss to Penn. And there you go, 2016, Tim.
Okay,
semi-state.
Yeah, so I mean, 9 years ago. I mean, but that was so cool, and I think that was when the building was just fresh. I mean, I don't think the building was built much earlier than that. But yeah, that's a cool gym. Plenty of seating. You know, Homestead can handle it. There's a couple schools that could handle. I think the IHSAA has a limit on how many fans a building can hold. Is the first criteria before they would actually offer it, and then you got to have the volunteer. You got to have the people that are willing to be there from 7 a.m. until. So regionals, you got 2 games in the morning, a 10 and a noon, and then you got the championship game, usually 7:30 or 8 p.m. Yep. So you got volunteers that are there, 14, 16 hours. I think that's a big part of it. I'd love to see it, no question about it. And I know Coach would as well.
Yeah, and I know Carroll's put in for it. It just hasn't been happening lately. Like you said, Tim, I think the IHSA knows what they have with facilities like Elkhart and Marion and Logansport, to where it just makes it really easy to go back.
Yeah, and Huntington North, they're set to handle a semi-state. Belmont, I believe, has a regional. Those will most likely, at least the regional in Belmont is usually a 3A. Or a 2A, but it just breakdowns on who wins. So the IHAs, that they got to take all their sectional champs and see who's really north, who's really south, and try to limit the travel time. But we did what was that? That was semi-state at Huntington North, wasn't it? All three of us there.
That was just 2 years ago.
Yeah. So, and that was a 4A semi-state. Fishers, Lake Park, Snyder, and Homestead, right? Am I right about that?
It wasn't Homestead, but Snyder ended up losing in the semifinal, I believe, and then Fishers ended up winning it.
Right. Correct.
Yeah. Well, and I'm pretty sure that Northside and Southside, their gyms were built too small to ever even host a sectional.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I believe so.
It is the state of Indiana. I mean, the basketball gyms here are not like other places in the country.
Yeah, you have to be able to seat 3,200 to have a sectional. So,
okay. Well, guys, this Monday we'll be back and we'll have some previews before the big girls sectionals. First postseason event starts this Saturday with wrestling sectionals. So we're getting into the start of winter postseasons. I think the final sport to have their championship will be gymnastics and boys basketball right around the same time. So It's going to be a fun month and a half.
No doubt about it. It's winding down, but this year we're talking about doing a little bit more baseball maybe out there for you folks. So, we'll keep it rolling in the spring, hopefully, for you guys.
Most definitely. Well, everybody, Tim Atkinson and Coach Edmonds, they got the call tomorrow at Northrop, and then Friday is going to be a big one at Wayne. You guys are going to, and then Saturday is a big one at Wayne as well with the
Blackhawk Christian.
We bring the big games. That's what we do. We bring the big games.
Them big games follow you everywhere you go.
Big Game Keith, that's his name.
Big game, that's right.
Thanks so much, guys, and thanks everybody for tuning in. Have a great rest of your week. We'll talk with you guys another SCSR on Monday. Thanks everybody.
White Shoes Kelly Chevrolet. We offer a wide selection of new and used inventory with a team that guides you to your perfect fit. Our certified pre-owned options ensure peace of mind with warranties and rigorous inspections. Competitive pricing, flexible financing, and convenient trade and services, making your dream Chevrolet a reality. Trust our experienced service team to keep your vehicle in top shape and enjoy free car washes as long as you own your vehicle.
Anderson Heating and Air, locally owned and operated with over 50 years of experience. Call us today and get a free quote on a brand new furnace and AC, financed and available. Don't wait. Call us today and sign up for a maintenance agreement and stay cool. Our maintenance agreements will ensure that you're first in line if you have an emergency, and we'll send one of our service techs out for cleanings twice a year. Call us at 557-0958 or request an appointment on our website. Call Anderson Heating and Air, where your emergency is our emergency.